Auckland, also known as Isthmus of 1,000 Lovers, the biggest city of New Zealand, is home to over 1.5 million people, which accounts for a third of the country's entire population. As a global city, Auckland, of course, is very multicultural. Most residents are of European descent, mainly British and Irish, but there are large communities of Asian, Pacific Islander, and Maori as well. Auckland was first settled by the Maori people in the mid-14th century, and the population reached nearly 20,000 before the arrival of Europeans. In 1840, the chief of a Maori tribe offered the land around the present city of Auckland to a British governor for free as a sign of goodwill. But that's just one side of the story.
And they come in their clothes and stuff, so they felt that they had the rights to just take whatever they believed they had the right to in terms of our land. So they stole a lot of the Maori land back in the days, and we are fighting to get that land back today as we speak.
This segment of British colony became the first capital of New Zealand. The European immigrants surged during the gold rushes in the early 1860s. While European population in New Zealand was skyrocketing, Maori population gradually decreased due to several civil wars and exposure to diseases to which Maori had no immunity to. In order to make sense of this racial shift in New Zealand, social Darwinists maintained that quote-unquote inferior race faded away following its contact with superior Europeans. In 1947, the national government of New Zealand started a policy to assist immigration from the UK in order to fulfill the growing needs for labour. The scheme was extended to the Netherlands and some other European countries in 1950. Begun in the 1950s, schemes of student assistance called Colombo Plan brought young Asian students not only from China but also Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. Meanwhile, many female Pacific Islanders came as domestic servants and males did as unskilled laborers for factories in Auckland. In 1974, the government of New Zealand introduced a new non-racist immigration policy that required all prospective immigrants who are not from Australia to obtain entry permits. As a result, the right of residence became based on questions of skills and qualifications, not ethnicity or national origin. Today, over 40% of Auckland residents were born overseas, bringing world-class diversity. If the city is ethnically so diverse, what about socio-economic diversity? Since 2000, the population of skilled labor has been increasing with the mean annual earnings of Aucklanders. In other words, the city is gradually growing richer and more exclusive. In 2016, there were 41,000 homeless people in entire New Zealand, and half of that number is families with children. Today, how much you make determines whether or not you can buy your own home. Since the 1960s, average wages increased by 59%, whereas the average housing prices increased by 280%. A gap between income and housing price starts opening up in the 80s and 90s when the public housing got privatized in a market-driven economy and the government became neoliberal. If the average hourly wages increased at the same rate as the national GDP growth, people should be paid 32.1 New Zealand dollars instead of 27.6. Moreover, investment behavior in New Zealand has changed in the last 30 years. People stopped seeing houses as a place to stay and began thinking of them as investment that they just happened to live in, as well as buy and sell to maximize their personal wealth. The more they used housing as a mere investment tool, the more foreign-owned banks pour money into Auckland.
Many Chinese investors have bought out property in metropolitan areas that remain unused and empty for the purpose of real estate appreciation. This has left many Kiwis unable to live in the houses in their own country. This has frustrated many of them for a long time, leaving them to ask the government for reforms in foreign investment policy.
And here's a policy reform to ban foreigners from buying existing houses in the country. But under this law, foreign investors are still able to make limited investments in new apartments in large developments. Just a few weeks ago, a news article reported that Auckland housing became 2.6% more affordable in the last 3 months thanks to the plateauing growth of housing price, rising wages, and record low repayment rates on home loans. In 2017, however, Auckland is still the 4th most unaffordable city in the world. So the question is, what do we actually mean by affordable and for whom? For my Global City project, I will explore the role of foreign investors in housing affordability in Auckland and who is actually in charge of the city.